Again, we are back for our third and final episode on faith and politics. And today we are talking about beyond elections because the decisions will be here. We don't know if it will be on the day of, but whenever it comes, a decision will be made, right? And some of us are already thinking about maybe how things will change or maybe how things won't change. But I kind of want to start this off with the premise that whether or not your preferred candidate wins, 1, let us not be quick to boast. And 2, let us not be quick to also give into a mindset that everything ends at this election, right? And this is why we are making this video on how can we begin to think about life beyond election. So stay tuned. All right, so one of the things I want to start with is that, like I previously mentioned, not everything ends here, right? There is still work to do. Remember, part of being on this earth really is partnering with God. And we trust that God is sovereign, okay? God is sovereign. God is not sleeping. God sees. And all we have to do really is to be aware of how God is moving. How can we come alongside that? So stay woke, right? Stay sensitive to God, and let us allow Him to lead us and not be led by everything that's going on around us or how things may seem, right? So that's that. The second thing is that the work continues, right? And one of the things that we can really do is to continue to educate ourselves, whether that's around issues, whether that's around policies, whether that's around basic civics topics, because again, being aware is important because this helps us to make informed choices. We know that when we're thinking through things or when we're talking to someone, we know, right, the facts, we know the sources, we know the history behind certain things. And so we're able to move about, right, society. We can bring other people alongside us. In our previous newsletter, we recommended a great podcast called Civics 101, and that'll keep us all informed about how this works, right? It may not make things easier, but again, having a knowledge of structure and systems teaches us, right, how things are working and maybe what gaps need to continue to be filled. Get to know your local and congressional representatives. This matters. This is key because this is like one of the biggest things I would say. So I'm going to give us a very quick Civic 101, okay? So if you're aware from like US history or government or something like that, we know that there are 3 branches of government: the legislative branch, that is the judicial branch, and that is the executive branch, right? The executive branch is the seat of the president, which is what we're all voting for now, right? So those 3 branches are responsible for various matters. And so our legislative branch is responsible for writing the laws, so they make the laws, right? Our executive branch, they are the ones who carry out the laws that the legislative branch writes. Then the judicial branch interprets the law, right? So we know of the Supreme Court, and if there are cases or disputes, they interpret that. And so when we think about the legislative branch, honestly, I'm just gonna put this out there, but you can do your research, but this arguably might be the most influential, right? And they're made up of Congress, they're made up of Senate. Each state has their own representatives. And so when we're thinking about this, we can even think about it in terms of our local representatives can make it all the way up to the legislative branch as senators and as congressmen and women. And so it is important to start thinking about our local elections. Who are those people? Do we know them? Because not only do they impact us locally, directly, right? The president does, but realize that he's just carrying out what people wrote. So this starts locally, right? So our local representatives have local impact. Then our congressional representatives, right, have impacts within the broader government. But these are all intertwined. So basic takeaway here, please pay attention to those who are representing you locally, right? Because not only do they impact us locally, but they can also go up to be our representative. So choose wisely, vote wisely, and then this kind of links into the third and final point, right? Get involved. get involved, right? Get involved in maybe a local civic group. Get to know your school board member. Are there open hearings about certain things? Go visit, know what is happening, right? This is not something that is just out there and oh wow, they get to make all the decisions, right? Yes, there is power, but there are also ways that we can keep ourselves informed and we can keep ourselves active in the things that continue to shape society. So those are just some ways that we can think of moving forward. Again, think about your particular space, think about your particular location, right? What is going on there? What is going on in the schools? What new hearings are coming up? What decisions are being made, right? Think about my sphere. What has God called me to do within this sphere? Remember, it is about partnership and it is about commitment to a person. It's a person, right? And we have earthly rights, we have earthly ways, right, to get involved in things. We don't take that lightly. But we also know that if things don't turn out the way that we think they would or they should, God is sovereign. And I'm still moving. You know, his kingdom isn't perfectly here right now. And we may think, oh, all of these efforts are fruitless and we're voting and how's that going to change anything? But it matters, right, that we are moving and that our faith, right, is in God. We think about the witnesses and they didn't see everything happen. There's some that didn't see everything happen here on this earth, but what matters is faith, right? I don't put my hope in man. I don't put my hope in a system. I put my hope in God and I make sure, right, that I respond however it's called me. So I wish you all well, and I hope you've enjoyed this series, and I hope it has been helpful. Take care, y'all. Have a great week ahead. Bye.